Don't we rumble? Float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Ah, rumble, young man, rumble. Hey! That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna rumble. Listen out.
Ensign authorization code 95 Victor 2.
Authorization not recognized.
95 Victor 2.
Access granted.
Mr. President, this is Dr. Oken.
And yes, Star Trek fans, that is Data.
My name. It is pronounced Data.
Oh?
You called me Data.
What's the difference?
One is my name. The other is not.
Released summer of 1996 and directed by Roland Emmerich, Independence Day brought success in many aspects to the disaster film genre. This was the first movie to do convincing city destruction, which has become a standard in modern big superhero movies. Before this, if you want big city destruction, you'd need movies like Godzilla or other kaiju-type monster movies, with few exceptions. But Independence Day took city destruction to a whole new level, winning the Academy Award for Best Visual Effects. When promoting Stargate, Emmerich was asked by a reporter why he made a movie about space aliens if he didn't believe in them. He responded by explaining that even though he didn't believe in them, he thought they were fascinating, explaining how he thought the world would be totally changed if one morning we woke up to discover 15-mile-wide spaceships hovering in the atmosphere over the world's biggest cities. Emmerich then approached his then filmmaking partner Dean Devlin and told him he had an idea for their next movie. Emmerich and Devlin worked together on Moon 44, Stargate, Independence Day, Godzilla, and The Patriot, which proved to be their last collaboration until the upcoming Independence Day resurgence. Independence Day grossed $817 million worldwide and became the second highest grossing film of all time at that time, thus cementing the star power of the biggest actor in the film. This is, of course, Jeff Goldblum.
You've heard of Chaos Theory?
Who at the time starred in the two highest grossing films of all time. But I feel like there's another actor who was noteworthy in this film. An actor who really became a huge star after this movie cemented his career.
Trump is a man who sees the future and knows he will make it happen.
That doesn't seem right, but we'll go with it for now. The American government was actually going to support this movie under the condition that Area 51 was removed from the script. To the filmmakers' credit, they turned down this support because they felt it was too important to contain real alien mythology in this movie. It's rather refreshing to see a major motion picture turn down money and keep true to its goals. Granted, I'd prefer if the movie actually had more of a message, but I'll take what I can get. Anyways, the first and very logical question brought up about Area 51 is,
where does all this come from? How do you get funding for something like this?
And of course, it's blown off remarkably quickly.
You don't actually think they spend $20,000 on a hammer, $30,000 on a toilet seat, do you?
Just because they buy products at Walmart doesn't mean this isn't somehow a cheap facility. I'm not saying the movie needs to explain how the government can afford Area 51, but if they don't have an answer for that question, why the fuck are they bringing it up?
It just raises too many questions.
So, throughout this movie, we can see people stuck in traffic trying to get out of the cities with saucers hovering over them. People like Harvey Fierstein and Vivica A. Fox are never able to get out of the city, despite starting early.
People are advised to avoid the highways wherever possible.
Oh yeah, great, now he tells me.
Yet, Jeff Goldblum and Judd Hirsch have time to get out of New York and drive to Washington, D.C. with no apparent hassle. Why do they get out of New York so easily and no one else can? Easy, because the script says so.
Get off this freezing concrete floor before you catch cold. Come on.
What'd you say?
You mean about faith? Well, can leave it just highway.
Do it.
I don't want you to catch cold. Oh! What is that? What's the matter with you?
Genius.
How convenient that Judd Hirsch says the exact thing needed at the right moment to give Jeff Goldblum the idea of how to defeat the aliens.
Yes.
Wait.
Yes.
A brilliant idea.
Yes.
That's what we need, a brilliant idea.
What bugs me is that they already put the seeds in place to give Jeff Goldblum this idea naturally, rather than in this cliche way. Since they already set up that Jeff Goldblum could figure out some of the alien code, why not have a scene after Data's death?
Don't worry, he's not dead, just in a coma.
Where someone says that Data looked over Jeff Goldblum's work and made some notes. Goldblum looks over the notes and realizes a weakness in their programming. After all, there's a throwaway line where Goldblum's research is brought up to Data.
What code?
Why not link together stuff so that the throwaway stuff isn't completely pointless?
My point is, if we can't beat their defenses, then we gotta get around them.
There's a lot of questions here. They do set up how Jeff Goldblum is able to figure out the code being transmitted through the satellites, which I'll get to later. So it's seen how alien technology can talk to our technology and that Jeff Goldblum can read it well enough to figure out what it's doing.
What? Marty, listen to this. I got a lock on the pattern of that signal, and so we can filter it out. But if my calculations are right, it's gonna be gone in like 7 hours anyway.
But they also say that the scientists at Area 51 weren't able to do much with the old flying saucer because they couldn't figure out how to power it.
See, we can't duplicate their type of power, so we've never been able to experiment. But since these guys started showing up, all the little gizmos inside turned on.
Well, it looks electrical, and when Jeff Goldblum read it, it was in binary, which implies electrical, or at least they use electrical signals. Whatever. So Jeff Goldblum can figure out a way to hack the shield on a 50-year-old spacecraft. I can accept that. They've had plenty of time to research that one. But I can't accept that in 50 years the aliens have the exact same programs with the exact same flaws running now? How the fuck did that happen? Well, I do have a theory. See, clearly the aliens have iTunes, and to stop getting constant updates, they just shut down the updates on all their systems for 50 years. Hey, I get it. iTunes updates are some annoying shit.
Once again, you put your keen and penetrating mind to the task and as usual come to the wrong conclusion.
You thought... What's annoying is that they could have experimented with the newer ship that Will Smith crashed that appears to be reasonably intact. But I guess that'd make too much sense. For comedy relief, we get Randy Quaid, who's clearly hilarious because he's drunk. The music tells us he's so funny. As an alcoholic Vietnam pilot who was once abducted by aliens, he is seen as a local loon.
When they took him up in the spaceship, the aliens abused him sexually.
He is also an absent parent, forcing his eldest son to take over parenting duties for his 2 younger siblings.
I'm still your father.
No, you're not. You're just the man who married my mother.
But it's okay, because Randy Quaid is a silly, fun drunk. He just drinks and flies planes, which is perfectly safe, right?
Stupid! You're so stupid!
I like the idea here, but it's played too much for comedy. The stupid salute and the music cue that highlights its cheesiness.
It's me, Russell Case, sir.
And once he makes the announcement that he's doing a kamikaze, he literally says one thing too much to cheese it up just that much more.
Hello, boys! I'm back!
This should be a serious high point in the movie. Instead, it's pretty cringeworthy. I will say this, it's better than the original scripted version where Randy Quaid simply flies into battle with his biplane. That'd be a whole new level of cringe. All these characters feel extremely generic. You might have noticed I'm not using character names. That's because I don't really associate these characters with anything besides the actors who play them. To this film's credit, it does cast good actors in roles that are a perfect fit for them. But if we didn't have such noteworthy actors, what would we have? We got a white guy, a black guy, a comic relief guy, a stripper, a Jewish guy, a gay guy, a comic relief alcoholic, an old wise guy, a wormy guy, a Jeff Goldblum guy.
I don't know, all I did was stumble onto their signal. I don't know how helpful I can be.
Seriously, it feels like a really bizarre series of idiotic high school reunion trophies.
Best actor in a Columbus movie?
Add to it the fact that there's absolutely no real character development in this movie. There's actually an interesting scene in this movie where we see that Jeff Goldblum is still wearing his wedding band, even though he's been divorced for 3 years.
3, 4, you're divorced. Come on, move on. This is not healthy.
So it seems obvious to me that the storyline would be that he needs to move on. But instead, the storyline is something more along the lines that he was always right to wear his wedding band, even though that's an utterly bizarre message to put out there. If you get a divorce, you should just wear your wedding band and hope for the best. I somehow doubt that's the best way to handle that situation. The humans are pretty damn stupid here. UFOs hover the biggest and most important cities in the world, and President Bill Pullman doesn't call for an evacuation.
I don't want to add to a public hysteria that's going to cost lives.
Why? I mean, I get him staying and getting the vice president to a safe location, but what's the harm in getting people evacuated in an orderly manner? Sure, the aliens may not be hostile, but they certainly seem not to be very friendly. If they were completely friendly, they'd just send one ship. At the very least, they plan on being intimidating, and they clearly want something and want to at least look like they're willing to use force. Then we have Vivica A. Fox, who is clearly just out from under the UFO and for some reason chooses to drive under it and get herself caught in traffic. I know it's explained she's picking up her check, but why does she choose to work? She has her child and dog with her, and with aliens overhead, her boss somehow convinces her to work? Then after the aliens have destroyed the biggest cities, the idea of nuclear weapons is brought up, and Jeff Goldblum declares that it can't be allowed. Why? Because it'll harm the planet.
No, you're not going to launch nuclear weapons. You're going to kill them and us at the same time.
Well, I doubt what the aliens are doing right now is particularly nice to the planet. This actually would have worked better if Jeff Goldblum instead states how he hates the idea but can't come up with a better one, giving the character a bit more depth, rather than being completely one side on the issue, and also providing some foreshadowing when he does have a better idea later in the movie. Then they get a live alien that they know is alive, and they decide to cut into his exosuit without ensuring it's secured to the table, or even just having armed guards nearby to shoot it down if things go awry. And then we have the people on the rooftop, being idiots welcoming the aliens after they already shot down an aircraft. Seriously, how stupid do they think human beings are in this movie?
I consider myself the presumptive nominee, absolutely.
Oh shit, maybe humans are this stupid. Can you imagine a species so advanced that they fly across the galaxy, possibly the universe, to attack the Earth, then they get into their positions, and they just sit there? They do nothing for hours. Their plan is a Quaid to chess.
It's like in chess. First, you strategically position your pieces, then when the timing's right, you strike. They're positioning themselves all over the world, using this one signal to synchronize their efforts. In approximately 6 hours, the signal's going to disappear and the countdown's going to be over.
And then what?
Checkmate.
I have an issue with that analogy. No one in chess gets their pieces into position and does nothing but wait a minimum of 6 hours to checkmate the other player.
The match was scheduled to begin at 5. We will now start the clock. Mr. Fisher failed to show. Mr. Spesky wins by forfeit.
Also, the saucers are supposed to be positioned all over the world. Why do they need our satellites to help with the line of sight if they're already all over? Hell, if they have gaps, make use of those small fighter ships. Then, not long before they strike, they go ahead and reveal their hand by blowing up some helicopters. Why wait so long just to reveal your intent right before you strike? Then the aliens actually bother to engage the Air Force in some dogfighting. Why waste your time engaging the clearly more primitive species on their terms? Just fly around and blow up cities if that's what you want to do. Then we have the aliens going to Houston to blow it up, and it's explained that it's been largely evacuated.
Major cities have been deserted. Civilian casualties should be down to a minimum.
Why are they attacking a largely empty city? I would get it if it were a first strike and they wanted a show of force, but after destroying 3 huge urban centers in the United States and killing millions upon millions of people, how much more intimidating is destroying an empty city after that? My personal theory is that these aliens first attacked the aliens from Signs, and these decisions worked perfectly against those aliens. So why won't they work great here? It's the only way I can think of where their strategy makes any kind of sense. Recently, Roland Emmerich stated his dislike for Marvel films in an interview condemning them for being silly. Emmerich calling Marvel silly is a great example of the pot calling the kettle black. In general, I would argue while both are popcorn movies, Marvel movies are more on the smart side of popcorn films, while Emmerich's movies are more on the stupid side of popcorn films. And if there's a key word that really describes Independence Day, it's stupid. People compare this to the classic sci-fi movies. I would argue that at the script level, this movie is quite a bit dumber than most of those movies. As for direction, it's fine in this movie. There are a few really interesting shots, but there's also a lot of obvious homages to other movies. Some people say it's a ripoff, but I'm not sure if I would go that far. Storytelling is an art older than recorded history. The odds of telling a completely original story are pretty much non-existent. So the key is less to come up with an original story as much as it is to come up with interesting ways to tell stories we've seen before. And to this movie's credit, at times it does that very well. I like how we're introduced to Will Smith and how he thinks the alien invasion is an earthquake.
Police and fire departments are asking everyone to stay off the phone.
Hey babe, it's something on the news about the Quaid.
And his discovery of the saucer is very good. But other times it feels like just copying from better movies.
Blow through! Blow through! So many of them!
There's too many of them.
So from a script and direction perspective, this movie is unimpressive. So why does anyone remember it? There's 3 reasons. An incredible advertising campaign with instantly memorable images of famous landmarks being destroyed. Also, the casting here was pretty great. Jeff Goldblum plays Jeff Goldblum in a role where Jeff Goldblum works great. And after watching this movie, it's completely clear why Will Smith became a star. He has entirely too much charisma and sells lines that should make him an unlikable, arrogant douche.
But you are not as charming as you think you are, sir.
Yes, I am.
The other thing that really makes this movie stand out are the special effects that are still really solid even by today's standards. This movie was made in that sweet spot where computer effects were out, but they looked really fake. So the way to get the best effects was to do as much as possible practically and enhance with computer effects where needed. They can do much better now, but they usually just throw it all through a computer rather than do anything practically. I'm really kind of torn on what to score this movie. My 15-year-old self thought this was awesome. My critical self is less impressed. Even though I enjoyed this movie thoroughly as a 15-year-old, I doubt even then I would consider this particularly classic by any means. I do enjoy the movie for what it is, but what it is kind of stupid, with a great cast and effects. I give it a 6 out of 10. There is an extended version of this movie you can get, but I won't recommend it. Its best stuff is with Randy Quaid actually doing some parenting stuff, but not enough to really change much. Lots of the other stuff is just redundant, and the sound editing for the added stuff is surprisingly bad.
God, where are they?
I would stick with the theatrical. Make sure to check out the 5K subscriber giveaway and win some truly high-quality wall decals worth up to $150. It's absolutely free to get into the contest. Just watch the video giveaway and tweet about it.
Now, are you ready to redeem yourself?
Absolutely. My days of breaking into places and stealing shit are done. What do you want me to do?
I want you to break into a place and steal some shit.
Hey, if you like this video, please make sure to hit that like button and go ahead and subscribe. That helps me out a lot. And if you really love this video, consider visiting my Patreon page.